Hey, what's going on, everybody? So, I've been thinking about how I want to approach these videos. And for me personally, I realized right away as I was, trying to strategize all this, that I didn't want to do anything that was just marketing based. Like, that's just not who I am. I'm more of an educator. So I think where this is going to be going is this exchange is going to be much more trying to give perspective on things, trying to help educate. I just didn't want to do the whole, hey, this is me, this is what tax support is. I don't think that's helpful for anyone. So instead, we're just going to dive into the first topic for the very first video here. And when I was thinking about what would be best for tax support, in particular, I realized what I really needed to focus on was things that are important to me. And something that I see time and time again is people that have a lack of understanding of timelines and how exactly training plays out, right? Because I think a lot of people, especially if you're new to the fitness world, your idea is, hey, listen, I'm going to go into the gym. I'm going to do it whatever, maybe it's 2, 3 times a week. I'm going to do that consistently for a month, and all of a sudden I'm going to have these massive changes in my life and in my body. And that is just not how it works, right? Perspective is huge here, and understanding and controlling your expectations is massive. And I think that this is one of the biggest contributors to people dropping out. You have the whole New Year's resolution crowd who come in for a month or two and then they just disappear. But more importantly, you have people that are doing different programming or different programs, I should say, and are switching really quickly. Back when I was an intern, I remember getting in a kid that was going to start interning with me because at that point I was more of like a senior intern, if you will. And it was almost every single week you'd ask him, like, hey man, what are you doing today for training? And he'd have something else, right? Like you'd be like, hey, what are you doing? Oh, I'm doing German volume training. Oh, cool, man. Sweet. Check in week 2. Hey, are you still doing that German volume training? No, man, I switched to 531. Oh, okay, okay. And then, there used to be the idea too, this whole muscle confusion thing, which is now just like completely null and void. I don't know if this guy bought into that or not, or if he was just one of those people that felt like he needed variety in his life. But we will talk about later on in a different episode how good training is meant to be boring. But until that point, you just need to understand for what we're focusing on today is that when you go into a program, right, whether that is something simple like a 531, whether that's something super in depth like following like an INL principle guided program, doesn't really matter. But you need to give that program time. You can't expect to see results in 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I mean, a lot of the adaptations that we see, both physical and neurological, are happening well past 4 weeks time. So you can't just expect to go in and get it done in a month. You need more time than that. When I was, well, it's kind of hard to explain, not hard to explain, but just to put yourself in perspective, there was a time where I was chasing trying to get the heaviest squat that I could, the heaviest back squat that I could. And though that was kind of a main focus, it wasn't the focus. Like the focus for me was staying what's the word I'm looking for? Staying athletic, right? Because I was working with teams, whether that be soccer, footballs, whatever, and I wanted to make sure that I could do all the things that those kids could be doing, so that way, if I had to demo, I could demo it with no problem. And so, while focusing on the athletic side of things, I also was like, I kind of want to push my overall strength in terms of back squat specifically, and it took me, right, as that not being the main focus, it took me years of dedicated work before I could get anywhere close to 500 pounds. It just did. I went from whatever it was, let's just say 275 to 315 pretty quick. But then after that, you're starting to get smaller and smaller differences that are occurring and changes that are happening because of the fact that you become more and more well trained. So if you were someone who's done a ton of programs and all of a sudden you're starting this new one and you're not sure if it's working for you or not, you need to give it more time. If you're a newbie who's not had a ton of training stuff, sweet, you might see results in the first 3 to 4 weeks. But realistically, most people, they're just not going to see it. And that's why I think controlling your expectations going into something and telling yourself, like, hey, I'm going to give it this amount of time period before I really start judging whether or not it worked or not. What is that time period? I think it depends on the program that you're running, right? So if you're, let's just say for whatever reason, you're on a very strict, like I am pushing back squat, like I did. I'm pushing back squat. I'm solely focused on back squat. I have this program that I bought online and it's 4 weeks. You're probably not going to see a ton of gain in that 4 weeks. You're probably going to have to rinse and recycle that program multiple times before you see huge increases in strength, or whatever it is, the variable that you're trying to push and get more out of. So the program matters in terms of how much time frame you should give it. Now, if we're talking, let's say like a GPP phase, right, where you're just solely looking at creating a base for training, right? Maybe you're someone who hasn't trained in a while, or maybe you're detrained because you had some kind of injury and now you're trying to get back into it. That one's much more realistic, that by 3 to 5 weeks, you should be good to go and move on to the next progression, realistically. And obviously some of that still comes down to the aggressiveness with which your trainer or whoever created the program is programming that. But for the most part, especially with GPP things, like it shouldn't take that long at all. Power, very similar to strength in the sense of you need to give that bad boy time. You're not just all of a sudden going to put on six extra inches to your vertical jump in 3 weeks. That's just not realistic by any sense of the means, or any meaning of the sense. But I think you understand what I'm saying. So if you're someone who's looking for a new program or you already have one, please do yourself the favor and give it some time. Don't just jump ship as soon as you think that you're not getting results, or jump to the next program because you're getting bored. It's meant to be a little bit boring, but more importantly, it needs to have time to breathe before you're going to see any kind of adaptation actually start occurring.